In this video, I will talk a little bit about a rather sensitive topic that usually generates a lot of controversy among traders. I will talk about the Elliott Wave theory and its major flaw, which is often ignored by most of its users. The theory also has an upside that ironically spirals from one of its weaknesses as well. The information contained in this video is not supposed to destroy the reputation of this theory or anything like that. It's just meant to be a polite critic to the subject that may lead to greater insight. The Elliott Wave theory was developed by a man called Ralph Nelson Elliott in 1938. Elliott's major statement was that the markets were not random but followed a set of laws and it could be predicted with the help of Fibonacci levels. The fact that we can observe Fibonacci numbers working on price charts is almost undeniable. However, Elliott's bold statement about the natural laws of the market is where the theory begins to destabilize. The backbone of the wave theory states that the market moves in patterns of 5 and 3 waves, and these patterns repeat inside themselves in many degrees. We can certainly observe the market doing that from time to time, but the claim that the market follows such rigid laws is a bit audacious and counterproductive. The market, like everything else in our reality, only follow rules that are deeply embedded in nature, which is the case of the laws of physics. Elliott established that the market supposedly followed his axioms only based on anecdotal evidence. This problem gets worse because the rules of the wave theory get increasingly more complex with the notion of complex correctives and combinations of complex corrective patterns. The fundamental error here is trying to box the market in a bottom-up approach, which is to say that the market has some sort of unique mechanism that makes it different than other things in nature. There is a subtle paradox here as well because Elliott claimed that the wave theory works in harmony with the Fibonacci numbers, which are a mathematical inevitability, unlike the axioms of the wave theory itself, which point to certain axioms that are only applied to price motion. Elliott also established incredibly specific rules about the length and ratios of the waves, which can be easily done in retrospect, but it seems to be of little use in real time. The Elliott wave theory seems to go against the field of econophysics, which studies the intersection between economic systems and the laws of physics. According to econophysics and Newton's laws of motion, there is nothing that stops price from producing way more than 5 impulsive waves and more than 3 corrective waves. The only type of force that can do that is an external agent acting on the market, like market makers for example, and they are certainly not worried about respecting the rules posed by Mr. Elliott. In fact, they might use such rules to wash out Elliottians out of their positions. According to Newton's first law of motion, a body tends to stay at rest or in motion until an external force acts upon it, which is the idea of inertia in a nutshell. The conclusion we can derive from this is that the markets are subjected to the laws of physics, and any other theory must function under the umbrella of the laws of physics, not the other way around. It seems to be contradictory to state that price has an underlying set of laws that somehow break the laws of motion that govern everything else. Why should price be an exception to the rule? This is where the fans of the wave theory will say that the patterns of 5 and 3 waves discovered by Mr. Elliott reflect mass psychology, and that this idea does not necessarily break the laws of physics. That's true to a certain degree. The market functioning in a 5-3 wave pattern does not break the laws of physics at all, but saying that the market must work like that does break the most fundamental laws of reality. The key word here is must. The market can do whatever it wants to do, and most of the times, it will do that respecting Newton's laws of motion simply because there is no other possibility. Price reflects market psychology without any doubt, but that's not what happens 100% of the time. In specific and key moments, price reflects reverse psychology originally triggered by market makers, which later tends to become mass psychology and herd mentality. The tricky thing about the Elliott wave theory is that pretty much any movement on the chart can be explained in one way or another to fit the axioms of the theory, taking advantage of something called retrospective determinism. The rules and axioms of the wave theory have the paradoxical property of being too specific and too loose at the same time, so we can draw a nice and complex conclusion about what the market did after it's all said and done, but in order to trade profitably, we must do that beforehand. Not after the fact. To give the wave theory its credit, there is a way in which traders using this mode of thinking can find a profitable way of using it. For example, since the axioms of the theory have this contradictory nature of being too specific and too broad at the same time, the trader using the wave theory will often find himself capable of producing more than one possible wave count to the future. In the first moment, this seems counterproductive, but we can take advantage of it by building a trade idea based on the common ground between all possible wave counts. This is the best attribute of the wave theory as far as I'm concerned, and for all intents and purposes, the application of the theory seems to work better if we ignore the overly complex and bold axioms about the length and ratios of the waves. The other uncomfortable thing about the wave theory is that it tends to be too subjective. As we already pointed out in other videos, there is no way of trading profitably in the long term without some degree of subjectivity due to the fact that market fluctuations are mainly driven by the different subjective interpretations of many traders. If price was only objective and the efficient market hypothesis was proven to be fully correct, it would be impossible to make profits. However, the ironic advantage of the wave theory is that, because it is too subjective, it creates the possibility to generate wave counts that display the attribute of complementarity, which is when two apparently contradictory explanations can be simultaneously true. For example, you can trade the common ground between two contradictory wave counts and profit from that. Studying the wave theory can be an exciting thing to do, but it can also be frustrating. It's best to focus on the common ground and the attribute of complementarity attached to the theory instead of trying to claim that the market should behave in such a way. This is the only manner in which we can harmonize the wave theory with the laws of physics, which is not just a vain exercise, it's a practical necessity. Despite the hard critics we can do about the wave theory and the way it was conceptualized, we have to give credit where credit is due. A theory would never gain so much recognition and power if there was not anything good about it. The essential point of this video is to point out the inherent problems of the wave theory, and the ironic fact that we can take advantage of them to a certain degree. The bottom line is that we should always let the market tell us what it is about to do, and not try to tell the market what is supposed to do. In other words, we should look at the market under the paradigm in which is inevitably inserted, which in this case are the framework provided by the laws of physics. The laws of physics are a simpler and more elegant way of analyzing things from a first principles approach. That's it for this video. I hope you learned something new and useful. Don't forget to check out our other videos, our live trade playlists, and general market wisdom playlists to support the channel. Don't forget also to subscribe and leave your feedback below. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.